All right, ready? Hello and welcome into the Section 109 podcast. Here from Studio Breezy, the second podcast in the new studio, which, Matthew, by the way, I do have more pictures to put up. I just haven't got them put up yet. I'm here with Bobble Juan. Mix and Toby are here for the intro. I don't know if Toby's ever been here for an intro in the entire history of this show. And I'm here with Matthew, Jim, and we're on YouTube, so you can see us if you're just listening, and you can like, comment, and subscribe, and all the things that make YouTubers happy. And after that, Matthew, take us away, because I know we've got some news. And your favorite thing, signings.
Yeah, it is my favorite thing. This is one of my favorite times of the year because you don't have any games.
You don't like games?
No,
Jim, are you listening to this? The soccer fan doesn't like soccer games.
Let me rephrase. There's still a lot of possibility. There's still a lot of excitement. There's a lot of theory and nerding if you should choose to participate in that kind of thing. And
well, this podcast does do a lot of that.
Yeah, and once the games come, like reality sets in a whole lot.
Yeah. Yeah.
And like,
okay, I know where you're going now.
And so, this is like the fun, theoretical, happy-ish time.
I believe we're talking about hope.
And it is the hope.
I believe you're...
As the Tottenham fan over here does know, it is the hope that kills you.
Yeah, I don't know.
I really can't say a whole lot.
I don't really know why they bothered to score that game, that winner against Liverpool the other day, because that just means that it's going to make the second leg of that game so much worse.
Or did they win the first leg of the Carabao Cup or whatever?
Scored an 86th minute winner against Liverpool.
They did. Yep.
I don't know,
Yep.
but it's gonna make the return leg so much worse.
I'm not really familiar with what happened in the other game, but the other side of the bracket. But
What did happen on the other side of the bracket?
I don't really remember.
No, I'm genuinely asking.
A certain zebra-colored team won 2-0.
Yeah, Newcastle. 2-0 at the Emirates. Yes.
To be fair,
wait, you guys?
Arsenal was the better team in that game.
It's a little smash and grab.
It was definitely a smash and grabby. I mean, like Newcastle scored 2 good goals, but
I don't know if the first one you call good, but the second one was.
Did they smash and grab in like the typical when Newcastle is good smash and grab style?
Sure. I mean, yeah, they were. I mean,
Because like sometimes they do that thing where they don't really have the ball very much,
yes.
and
No.
Arsenal had the ball in the. I watched the
and
extended
then
highlights, and it was
either
We
a
had
set
the ball,
piece
we
or a
had
brilliant
chances,
break.
We had
and-
shots. We had. I mean, it was
off the post,
Yes.
lots of things.
Yeah.
It was,
And then they,
it
like-
was vintage Arsenal.
Did they like walk in on a counterattack? Or did you make them work for it a little bit?
No, they had to. Well, I know the first one was. I mean, do we really need to talk about this anymore?
Fair enough.
There's a second leg, and Jim currently doesn't have hope, but he should have hope.
We're not scoring 3 up north. Are you freaking kidding me? Good grief. Yeah. The
Soccer is bad.
The H in Arsenal stands for happiness.
I know. There's a lot of happiness in Tottenham Hotspur, so a lot of H's.
Yeah, Fiorentina's on a slide right now too.
You're halfway to a cup final, so
For now,
yeah. I don't remember, where was that game? Was it?
it was in London.
Yeah. Okay.
So like, what are the odds Liverpool could score more than 2 goals in Anfield? I don't know, but probably pretty
But
good.
Still, you got a shot. I think Tottenham has a better shot than Arsenal has of making it to the final.
Yeah, we'll see.
And I couldn't take a North London derby as a cup final anyway.
That would suck. That would suck so much for everybody involved.
I would literally I'd turn everything off. I would not watch it. I would not know. We'd go to a movie.
Pop-up notifications off.
Yes. And just, but this is not an Arsenal or Tottenham podcast, so.
Speaking of notifications, are you a big Blue Sky user now?
I've had an account for a while.
Are you using it like you use Twitter, or are you still on Twitter?
Yes, I'm still on Twitter. Yeah.
I'm scrolling both now.
Yeah. So Blue Sky is kind of a combo account. So at Twitter, I've evolved into
because you have a soccer account and a personal account, right?
Yeah. And Blue Sky, it's all one. It's all one. So it's at Chattagooner.
Cool.
Yeah.
Do you think you guys will evolve into using mostly Blue Sky? Because I feel like that's the trend that most people are going.
Yeah, but the community's not there yet. I mean, it's getting there, but the Soccer Sky or soccer, whatever you call it. I'm not doing skeets.
Skeet soccer.
I'm sorry, no.
It's called skeet soccer. That's what they're calling it.
So before,
Also, pause.
yeah, before Blue Sky got really popular, the community there referred to posting on Blue Sky as a skeet. And no sense of irony. No, I mean,
it wasn't ironic.
Oh no! It was just they knew what it meant. They said this is what we're doing, and so the community kind of just did that. And I can't do it. I can't.
What are you using? Post?
Tweet.
Yeah.
Are you tweeting on Blue Sky?
Yeah, I mean, like if the platform that formerly known as willingly gives it up, like,
ooh, that's
what we're all doing.
Yeah,
like we're doing that thing.
But the community hasn't moved over.
The archaeologists that eventually dig up this civilization are going to be like, oh yeah, like that's what they call tweeting. That's kind of weird. Like that's what it's going to be.
What's interesting, so like some of my Arsenal community, they shifted from Twitter to Threads, and then now they've gone from Threads to
to Blue Sky.
Yeah. Blue Sky. So Blue Sky, I think, will eventually.
I
gotta think that Threads is like Twitter in like 2016, but with perfect punctuation.
I mean, Blue Sky has a lot of that early Twitter vibe to it, that feel to it. So
I need to create an account. I don't know if I want to use it, but I need to create one. Also, the camera can't see Toby, but you guys can see Toby. Look at this ridiculous
Yeah, so it's getting there. It's not there yet. It's not the. I have my Twitter account, the Twitter soccer account, curated to the point where I don't see a lot of the toxic nonsense that really makes Twitter just a gross place to be.
And you keep up with that, like, so you can still use it.
See it. I don't see that.
If you stick on your following, you can ride it out mostly.
Yeah, I don't go on the For You or whatever.
Oh, that's a cesspool, man. Oh my goodness.
So yeah. So my feed on that had been curated to the point where I just didn't see a lot of this stuff. And so I my Chattagooner account there it's fine.
I gotcha. So. We are on Blue Sky, by the way.
Yeah, I sometimes forget
because he's been putting stuff.
I've been trying to put stuff out there, and sometimes I get distracted and don't. But we're trying.
I was looking up our Blue Sky so I could put it in our show notes, and I saw Matthew had done like a rant about like a statistical rant about something, and I was like, oh, Matthew's been on here. You were posting stats about somebody. Maybe it was a signing. I don't even know.
Oh, it probably was. I've been trying to do that a little bit.
But you were doing in depth like twittering on Blue Sky, and I was like, oh. And then that's why I was curious. If
I was trying to make fetch happen.
I also know that the other reason I asked, I know you're both power users, Twitter power users, or were at least.
Power.
You're both pretty online.
I rarely do.
Oh, you were at least pretty online.
I rarely do anything anymore other than like stuff and
post and ghost
and read. I rarely post.
I mean, I was a Twitter power user like for a while. I used to be on multiple times a day for a chunk of time, replying, tweeting, I loved it when it was a good community. It just during the pandemic got really bad for my mental health. Like I was just very negative. Everything was negative.
You could doom scroll on it pretty quickly.
Yeah, so
and TweetDeck went away, and that was how I used Twitter.
Oh, I would use the Twitter app.
So yeah, I did it on my
So now you use the Sky Deck.
Yeah, I do. I
just wanted to say that.
Yeah, I do. And I forgot my Blue Sky. My Blue Sky account is my name, not Chattagooner.
Oh.
You have both on there.
I do have both on there.
But he uses his name.
Yeah, and I don't know that. I don't really like that. So
you can go back to Chattagooner. Well, there was a long time where you were anonymous in Chattanooga FC circles.
Yes, I was.
You were ubiquitous, but also anonymous.
Yes, exactly. Pseudonymous, yeah.
And then for a while on your podcast, you were also just Chattagooner.
Yes, I was. I wouldn't refer to myself, but I wouldn't want people to refer to my name. That's true. That is true. Yeah. Yeah. I remember I bought a scarf or something and from Chatterligans, and I went to the tailgate and walked up, and I think it was Galen. I said, "Oh, I'm here to pick up my stuff." He said, "Oh, yeah, what's it under?" I'm like, "Well, you probably have it as Chattagooner," and he's like, "Oh, okay."
So during that period of time, I had multiple people ask me before and after I met you, because I met you in the period, or at least I remember meeting you and like putting a name with a face around the time your podcast started.
Yeah.
And around that time, I had people asking me, who is Chattagooner? And I'm like, he's this really tall guy. He has a podcast.
Yeah.
You'll see him around. He's at every game. And they're like, I don't know who that is.
Yeah.
And I'm like, once you meet him, you'll know.
Yeah.
He's taller than you think.
It was fun. Yeah, it was funny. The guys had the club came onto campus when I worked at UTC and we're doing something on campus, and so I went up and said hi and just talked to them a little bit, and they were like, oh, I said, I follow you guys on Twitter. And I'm like, oh yeah, what's your account? And I was like, well, it's like, it's Chattagooner. They're like, oh, that's you. I'm like, yes, yeah, that's me. Yeah.
Sorry?
No, I haven't. Outside of one player who got sideways with me on Twitter about things I said about
And them on the
matches.
podcast?
I'm sure you've had him on the podcast. He's not with the club anymore. But yeah, only one player has gotten sideways with me called me a keyboard warrior. Told me to stay behind the keyboard and shut up. I was like, okay.
I mean, thanks for listening. Thanks for the download.
Well, I started noticing when I'd make comments on games, I'd get likes by the players, and they were not likes. These were not likes. These were, we see what you're saying. Kind of.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah.
That's
and I try really not to. I really don't like. I'll say things about the defense, I'll say things about the offense, or maybe the transition. But I won't say this player needs to be better or this player needs to be better.
We have the same. We have the same.
I don't really like. I mean,
we're too close of a community to have like the anonymity, and I don't just mean the anonymity. I mean like those people know me, and I know those people, and like I don't want to criticize them.
Yeah.
In a public sphere.
Yeah. So I'll talk about. I'll talk about the left side, which okay,
it's a few players, but it's a little.
But still,
you can say you don't think the left side of the field lived up to what they were supposed to do, and it's not as hurtful as being like Gabby Torres had a stinker,
exactly.
and like
exactly.
Gabby Torres catching a stray. He hasn't played in CFC since 2019.
It was also easy to say.
It was a good save. He's not been here for.
It's also a safe thing to say because Gabby Torres had 0 stinkers.
He didn't have many stinkers.
We were just actually talking about him before the podcast. But
he signed or he transferred from Phoenix to El Paso.
Oh, okay.
A couple days ago.
Speaking of players, Matthew, we have 2 new players.
Yeah.
Not even 2 new signings.
We do.
Take us through them. Take us whichever direction you want to take us.
So let's start with the 2 new from this week, and then we'll kind of go back because there were a couple players that were announced right after that Jim hasn't had a chance to comment on.
Yeah,
at least on this
Everybody's
podcast.
waiting on your take.
Waiting.
With bated breath.
Yeah.
So we'll start out with the first one. The club announced on Monday that winger and CFC veteran Jesus Ibarra is back.
Welcome back, Jesus.
Yeah.
Jesus was regular starter basically since the day he arrived at the club. He had a significant injury in 2024 that kept him out for about 10 or so matches. And
we were not the same during those 10 matches.
We were not the same.
Yeah.
In fact, my favorite stat of the season that we referenced at the end of the season podcast. CFC lost 1 game in 2024 that Jesus started, and I think what that is in part like he had 7 goals and 3 assists during his time on the field. So he was incredibly productive. Mm-hmm. And he also, his availability allowed us to play the way we wanted to play.
And by availability, you mean his ability to hold up the ball, keep the ball in whatever moment, because
or break down somebody or finish a chance that came to him. It was super important. He was around 1,225 minutes per ASA. Which includes stoppage time
per American Soccer Analysis. Okay.
Yeah.
I thought it was a new stat he'd made up. I was like 1,200 minutes to make something happen. That seems like a
so look like
stat.
that's 10 goal contributions, and you're looking at a goal contribution every 120 minutes. Like that's big time. I will say he overperformed.
That's 3/4 of a goal contribution per game.
Yeah. I will say he overperformed his expected goals plus expected assists by about double.
Well, that's not really great.
Correct.
Well, number one, I don't care because he scored those goals and got those assists.
The output is more important than the stat.
And I think if you go back to the first half of the season,
This has been Matthew's pitch to me the last week, by the way.
if you go back to the first half of the season,
We were talking through roster construction.
when we were getting results,
we were
when he
outperforming.
was super productive,
Yeah.
he was doing the mostest with
The leastest.
The leastest.
Yeah, and I have to say I think I even said I just said I don't really like to talk about individual players, but I was late on him, I guess is the best way to put it. I didn't see it early on, and until last year, especially when he wasn't. I think I noticed him, and this is more about maybe how I watch games. I noticed him more when he was not there.
when you realize like, oh, we're not playing as well.
Yeah, we're not creating. We're not. I mean, and it was just obvious that there was a problem and that there was a bar-sized hole.
Yes.
In the offense, and that's when I was like, well, it's not the first time I'm going to be wrong about a player, but
I've got a history of being wrong about players.
And I love to motherfuck him about it too.
Yeah, I get. If you ever see Matthew running to me and pointing at me, and it looks like he's screaming at me angrily, he is, because it's a player that, as I have said, like, privately, maybe shouldn't be starting or is not good enough or something, and then he's either celebrating hard with me or telling me to go fuck myself because that player has scored.
I just didn't see it early, and then I just didn't, and I noticed him certainly with, like you said, the productivity we had. Although he was overperforming, the whole team was overperforming early on.
Yeah,
and because he had 10 goal contributions in that initial stretch, I guess it was 9 goal contributions because he scored against Columbus on his return,
which was what a goal that was. he also had 2 like the
was that
one
the outside, was that
no that was
the chip.
Okay.
That was the chip. The outside of the foot was against Huntsville,
Cincinnati.
Okay.
That was such a good goal.
It won MLS Next Pro Goal of the Year.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So I'll say, like, the reason when this signing first was announced, it wasn't like, it was like, oh, like, guys coming back. I thought he was moving on. I thought we were moving on. Like, what are we? And then, like, the more we thought about it, talked about it, like, the last year, even if Jesus is not, because what's something that I've struggled with is, like, he overperformed some of his goals, or some of his stats. So it's like, what's going to happen next year? But also, if you just, when he wasn't there, it wasn't just that he wasn't scoring or assisting. We weren't, like you said, we weren't creating anything.
Yeah, I would love to look. I'm not going to do this. I at one point maybe I would have, but I'd love to look at, like, I guess what some people call XG chain or other, just to see how involved he was in the build up for our goals.
I think very clearly we were playing much worse. And this is something I've been thinking about the last week. So Matthew and I have been talking about, like, we have 3 of the 5 wingers are back. And something I said on this podcast very clearly is that I want a killer winger. It's the thing I want for Christmas, right? Quote unquote, is a killer winger. And it's either Omzion or it's to come, because, like, now you have a guy that we know can be a plus starter in this league, at least, like, quality of play wise. He may not score as many as he did last year, because, like, it also might happen. He might, like, produce what he produced, but, like, he's going to provide a certain level of play. So now the question is, like, which one of the guys is either going to take a step forward if we're going to get that play, or is it Omzion? Are we signing another winger? What does our winger core look like? Because I'd kind of expected us to go younger with that spot, and obviously we didn't. We went, Jesus is back, and so I've come around and I'm happy. I'm excited to have, and I was always excited to have the person back, because Jesus, very good person, obviously very good player. And now I'm very curious what they do with that potentially other winger spot, because I would think you have one winger spot left. I would
imagine we get to, and we'll talk about this next signing here as well, but I think there's going to be some changes in midfield that, at least in theory, help us to solidify a little bit of midfield, get a little bit more, not necessarily control of the game, but ability to move the ball quickly into attacking positions that we like and we want to attack from, and hope that helps increase the XG and XA that are the chances that are being produced from from our forward line, including our wingers.
Also, Minjay was injured for a large portion of last year, so he could be like a new signing this year.
Yeah,
if he stays healthy and plays up to his potential.
I don't even think Minjay ended up with even 1,000 minutes including stoppage time. Because remember, like with, and I think we talked about this a little bit on the last pod, but with someone like Minjay, he had the injury coming off of his season in Canada. He gets here, he signs, like he's healthy, he's good to go, he signs. And remember, this might be after second preseason, right? Like this is several games now, 4 or 5 games into the season now.
We had a period of time we called the second preseason when we had those 2 weeks off in the middle randomly.
And then he I think he was going to play in the Carolina Core home game that we won 2-0. And then he gets, I think, stepped on in training like on the Friday before, and is out a couple more weeks, maybe 4 more weeks or whatever it was. So you've already lost almost half the season. And then you're trying to get him going at that exact same time of the year. That's when we really start sliding. The results start going against us. We start breaking out the back three, which pushes him into more of a wing back position. There was a game that he started at in central midfield as one of the 10s. In there. So there was a lot of in Minjay's case, he was a lot of all over the place. So hopefully,
and then he got hurt in Toronto to finish out the season hurt again.
Which is one of the reasons why I would imagine that his option wasn't picked up and they had to agree to a new contract or whatever. So hopefully in now in this Chris Nugent era, his role is a little bit more simplified as a winger. And we've seen what he can do.
Or I would not be surprised if these are our 4 wingers, I wouldn't be shocked if we are looking at either a secondary formation or a first formation that is a 3-man that doesn't have wingers, that has wingbacks. Because I think that Minjay's best position last year that we saw him play in was wingback or winger off the bench. But like his starting time at the 10 and his starting time at the wing were not like, oh man, look, Minjay's take, like it was just, there was either like average or whatever. But some of his time at wingback, he was really good. A couple games. And then off the bench, he had a couple games where you're like, wow, that was great. So I wonder if there's a chance that we look at somebody like a Minjay as if we go to a 3-man as a right wing back.
Well, I mean,
because you're a winger slash.
I know we're going to talk about this a little bit later, but if you think we're undermanned right now at center back, you
go to a 3-man,
3-back, and who's playing? Who's playing?
Let's talk about some of the other players.
I knew it might be.
Let's talk about some of the players and let's come back to that.
I'm happy with both of them. Really, I thought Kwok, when he came back, while the team underperformed, he provided sparks several times, and I wish I had a better memory than I do right now. I just remember him coming on and providing.
The New England game at home,
yeah,
which was one of his first game, maybe his first game
that may
for
be
us.
What I'm thinking of.
Quite good.
Yeah.
The New England game away where he scores the goal, he was good in that game.
Yeah. So again, it was somebody who probably I was a little slow to pick up on. He was injured. He was out. We didn't see him a whole lot. But when he came back, I think if he can play like he did that period and when he came back from injury, I think he'll be a good rotation, if not a starter.
Also, back to the Jesus piece, you can tell when he gets hurt, our possession drops precipitously. Yeah. Our ability to control the game just changed because, like he was saying, outlet. Like he was that outlet on the wing where you'd play it out to him, and maybe he recycles, maybe he goes up, maybe he dribbles, but like he kind of the whole offense oftentimes just ran through Jesus.
He's one of the best hold up wingers,
and I'm really happy to have that back
that I've ever seen.
Because even if he's
at this level,
and this is the thing that I had to get through my head, even if he underperforms this year, which I know this isn't how math works, but let's say he underperforms as much as he overperformed last year, the level of play that he brought the whole team up, like it was big, and I'm excited for that again.
Yeah. All right, let's move on to the next one. We have Nick Mendoza, a 23-year-old for now.
That was not for your pronunciation, by the way, which I'm sure was wrong.
Why is it telling me I keep trying Wi-Fi? A 23-year-old Brazilian defensive midfielder.
Sir.
He's from Miami.
Born in Miami. That's an American, my friend. You have to ask him what he identifies as, but he's American. He's American to me. He played for the U.S. youth national teams.
He did get some U.S.
U15s and U16s.
Some U.S. youth call-ups. He turns 24 next month. He made 25 appearances between the regular season and playoffs for North Texas SC, which is FC Dallas's MLS Next Pro team. That team also won MLS Next Pro Cup. They were the best team in the regular season.
And the best team in the playoffs.
And the best team in the playoffs. I think he had 6 starts for them. A couple years before that, he made 23 appearances. Most of those were starts.
How many overall appearances did he have this year?
For Minnesota United 2.
That was 2 years ago.
With 3 assists.
Yeah, he had a season in the middle there where we don't know where he was. But what did he do this last season? How many appearances total was it, did you say?
25, including playoffs.
25 appearances, including playoffs, 6 starts. A midfielder. So I watched some highlights. The more I think about it, the more excited I am. One of our issues, I think, last year was just midfield, especially as games went on, because if things weren't going well for whatever reason, we could not change games. And I mean defensively, like we couldn't close down games. How many times did we get up a goal and then give up one? And I don't actually know how many times it was, but it felt like a lot where we gave up one at the end, either lose or tie. Where like having a guy, I mean, this guy essentially helped 25 games. They would have played 31 total. How many games did they play total?
28 plus 4, probably.
So 32. He came in 25 games, and so that would have been 19 times he came in to help them close out games. Obviously, he could have been trying to win, but like a lot of those were wins that he came in and closed. And if you're watching his highlights, there's a lot of those where he's just in at the end of the game and he's defending, he's hitting long passes to guys on the break. Like, it's exactly the type of guy that makes me really excited. Not that he can't start for us, because he may start for us, but it's a good guy off a good team. That's a very good team. That's the big thing.
Like, North Texas was really good. Like, really good.
They won the West going away, and then they went all the way through the playoffs, and they beat Philly.
Yeah. North Texas and that FC Dallas organization do a phenomenal job of youth development. They take the Next Pro team incredibly seriously. This is a team that won USL League One in the opening year of that league.
Who?
Yeah, never heard of it.
In 2019, that team featured Ricardo Pepi. By the way,
I remember that.
Now playing in Holland and a U.S. national team player.
Also, no, Austin. Obviously, he's a Texas boy. Austin. I've been to Austin when he scored. They want to do Pepe chants the whole time, even though he's their rival. They want to do Pepe, or came from their rival. They want to do Pepe chants the whole time, and they explode for him. Like the roar every time he's about to come on, touch the ball, anything. Pepe is beloved in the state of Texas. I've been to games in Dallas and games in Austin with him, and he is beloved in that state.
Yeah, so like this is the type of player that I'm really excited about. Just because you're not necessarily a starter for a Next Pro team does not necessarily mean that there's a quote unquote reason for it. You got to remember, the 2 guys that started in midfield, North Texas ran a back 3 with wing backs in the championship game, as an example. The 2 guys playing central midfield for them were both like 18 or 19. One was on a first team contract. I think the other is on one now, as of this week.
Which also means they may have been starting based on merit because they may have been the better player, or because developmentally they may have just wanted him to start. He could have been a better player potentially, Nick, and those guys were starting because they wanted them to develop. Which is one of the interesting things about this league is you might sign a guy like that's a backup, quote unquote, that didn't start the whole season, who may be better because the organization may prioritize a guy who's they think in the long run is going to be better or has a bigger first team track or whatever else. And it does, it's interesting.
And if I think about North Texas for a second, to my count, I think 4 guys from that team last year have now signed contracts with FC Dallas. Another one
You said 4?
4. Another one has moved on to Monterey Bay in the USL Championship. And another one is on loan from FC Dallas, who was already on a first team deal, is on loan to Phoenix in the USL Championship. Like, that's a smashingly good team. and you got to remember that was before you have anyone else on MLS contracts that are occasionally playing, like from that supplemental roster.
And the most impressive thing of all of that is one of those guys is coming here. And by impressive, I mean good for him. Lucky for him.
Correct. So we're real excited to get Nick in. I think, he posted, or the club posted a message from him while training in Brazil. So hopefully he's due to arrive in town soon.
Jim, how are you feeling about it? I know Matthew and I've gone on and on about it.
And then Jim, as for general thoughts, like we announced Minjay, we talked about that.
Yeah.
We also announced the return of Tate Robertson.
Yes. Yeah. Well, and there's at least one person in my household who was very excited to hear that Tate was back. My younger son was a huge Tate fan and was quite upset when he left. And so when that news, he came down and was like, "Hey, did you see?" So I'm excited to have Tate back.
Really. Very excited to have Tate back.
Yeah, I think I have said probably on this podcast, but definitely to a lot of people, that I hope that we play, generally speaking, with two holding midfielders. I think this league is so much offensive talent that I would like to see a box-to-box and a holding six, or just two sixes. And I also think we now have a lot of talent at our outside back positions in Tate, who can really serve a ball, and Milo, who did everything last year, serving balls, scoring balls, everything. So if you got those guys, get them further up the field. And so I love this Nick signing. Obviously, we've talked about Steve-O. We still have Jude in house. Like, you have three guys now who fit that kind of 6'8" profile, plus Alex and Callum, who at different times have played that position as well. Like, I'm hopeful, and we'll see what Chris wants to do, but I'm hopeful we consider playing a two-man defensive midfield. And because also I felt like we gave up a lot of chances, especially towards the end of the year, from that like top of the box where your six often sits area.
Zone 14.
Zone 14. I forgot about. Yeah. Zone 14.
Yeah. Zone 14.
So
what were you hoping to see in building had you thought a lot about, like, I want guys out of MLS Next Pro?
Oh, no. I mean, I haven't thought about, no.
Because that's something I thought of a lot.
I just wait till they're announced, then I go see if I can find out who they are, and then I cheer for them at the matches. I mean, I'll let Matt have anxiety attacks about all the guys who are out there and don't come here, and then all that stuff. And
he does.
I cannot keep track. I cannot keep track of all that stuff.
That's fair.
Let's move to a departure, because we get to say goodbye to a player as well. So on, I guess it was Monday.
I need one of those. Bam, bam, bam.
No, we don't need taps.
Right. It was Monday earlier before Jesus.
Yeah.
The club announced that they had agreed with Jesse Williams.
Mutually agreed.
A mutual contract termination. Jesse was the first player signed in the MLS Next Pro era at the end of December last year.
First player signed once we were already in MLS Next Pro.
Yeah.
First new player.
New player. He was on a 2-year deal, and I think he played in. I think he gets credit for 18 games. I think 16 of those were in the league, and 2 of them were friendlies that count for us as far as we're concerned, and mostly at right back. And I think it's safe to say that it just didn't work out for whatever reason. I think he came in with a lot of, we all, had a lot of like hope and expectation, and for whatever reason, like it just didn't work out. And sometimes it doesn't. Mm-hmm. He was real good in that first game against Huntsville.
Mm-hmm. And the preseason, he was probably our best player all preseason.
He was all over the place.
Standout all preseason.
In preseason, he was great in that Huntsville game. I feel like it never quite. Once he came back from international duty, I felt like he just wasn't on the same page. in a lot of ways, and I'm not really sure why. And that's like sometimes that happens. Like,
well, sometimes you have peaks and valleys in forms, and he may have peaked in that preseason and then valleyed right after that, and then never got a lot more playing time. I don't know, but I'm not super. The guy's got a national team career to worry about. Like,
yeah,
we've signed. Now, like, we re-signed Robert Screen, and then we went out and signed Tate Robertson.
Right.
So, like, the writing was kind of on the wall there, right? Like, it's not surprising
and it makes a lot of sense. Like,
mutually, it makes sense
for Jesse. Like, if we thought he was going to be one type of player, and maybe he wasn't, and maybe we got that wrong, by the way, then it's in everyone's best interest, especially because, like, yeah, he's got that national team career to worry about with Trinidad and Tobago, who we got back in with, last month. So it makes a lot of sense for him to go find a place that'll fit him a little bit better, and hopefully he finds that club and smashes it.
So as we all usually do, I'm going to share a positive moment, positive memory from his. I remember at the Blast-Off battle being like, because he just kept little brothering dudes over and over and over again, no matter who we played. And I was just like, holy fuck. We finally got like that like he was a different level of athlete. Like he, if he tried to push you out of the way, if he tried to beat you for pace, if he tried to just take the ball, like he was just doing that at will, whichever one he wanted to do. And yeah, those were like, and like he had a few moments during the season where he did things that were high too, but like that was like when I was like, I had all the, you were talking earlier about like, this is the favorite time of the year when you have all the hope. Like that's when I had all the hope, man. And,
I was really hoping when we went to Toronto at the end of the season and he started again, because he hadn't started a game in a while, right? I was really hopeful that like he just needed a different voice in his ear, and he was going to turn the corner. And I think he got injured in that game. We had to sub him off, and like that was a huge bummer because I thought he played pretty well in that game, and I think we had gotten up like 3-1 at that point in time. So yeah, we'll miss him. Best of luck.
I'll miss him off the field too, because like he was good vibes off. Like you come to the end of the game, like he'd come in hanging out. Like he always looked like sometimes he'd come in with a big unbuttoned shirt. Like he always had a good. Like it was fun. Like he'd come in and he'd come in different. Like he didn't come in wearing the same thing every time. So you'd be like, "Oh, look at you today," and he'd be like, like it was just he was good vibes, man. And I'll miss Jesse the person for sure.
Yeah. So with that being said, our roster now stands at 19?
19 players. Yeah.
How many do we think we go for?
Well, like you put it this way, I think
this is something Matthew's thought about, I guarantee you.
Yeah.
At a minimum, you're looking at one player per position, right?
Additional?
So you're
Or total?
In total, like, or you want...
You have to have one player per position.
Oh, I said one, didn't I? I meant two.
Yeah, that would be a good place to start.
So you want two players per position. So like
somebody, if you're catching this, put the Italian hand memes in the emojis in the comments.
So you want two players at striker. You want four wingers.
Well, it's also system driven a little bit.
I mean, if you think of a 4-3-3, if you start with a 4-3-3, then you have two at every position, and then that makes 22, and then what are you adding after that? I think.
So, and you're adding a third goalkeeper, and most teams in a standard 24 are adding a third 9, a third striker, because you just want the flexibility. You want the flexibility there.
If you sign a 6 that can drop back and play center back, if you sign outside backs that could also cover as an outside center back if you need to switch to a 3. I think you need.
And can your 8s play 10s? Can your 10s play 8s?
Yeah, I think you need another. I think you need at least
two,
4 center backs.
Yeah, right. So we only have 2 center backs on the roster. So I think like it's reasonable to suggest that we should be on the lookout for 2 more center backs.
Right.
We have Mehdi and Marcus on the roster.
Yeah.
I think it's reasonable that we're probably looking for another striker.
Mm-hmm.
I agree.
And hopefully one that can
play on the wing too.
Play on the wing, at least one of the wings. If
sure.
Not both.
And now you're giving Matthew the catnip because Matthew loves a combo player.
I love a combo player.
Well, you got to have them. You got to have because not only just for starting purpose, but also during the game, so you can rotate those top 3. Depending on matchups and what the other team
and so that you can also put in like 3 strikers if you're really chasing a game if you want. Like you can get wild. Or you can play Kai Havertz at the 8.
We've got 2
wanna get real
goalkeepers on the roster, so I think a third goalkeeper.
Yeah, in the modern day, like old school CFC would only carry 2. When we were like a little bit smaller of a club, or smaller like roster size of a club, but like now everyone, including us, carries 3.
So between an extra striker, an extra goalkeeper, 2 center backs to bring us to 4. The only other spot where we don't have at least 2 of is left back,
backup left back, or starting left back. I guess if you push Milo,
you would think that Milo's probably going to be return as a starter. Return his role as a starter. So you're looking for cover at left back. That's really it at this point.
Well, that'd be 24. Yeah.
Now that does not.
I wouldn't be shocked if we go for 26. Could be 24. Could be 26.
That doesn't include what might also be academy signing type players that could be available or definitely participate in training.
24 pros plus a couple academies is probably the most likely number.
Right. And that also does not account for, like, we just saw departure of Jesse Williams on Monday. Like, that doesn't account for if anyone is going to leave for whatever reason. A club might come in for a player if they swung and missed on a couple targets.
I mean, we brought in Jude on a transfer we paid for in like way later than this last year.
Right.
Mm-hmm. You could see the opposite happen. Someone could come in and buy a player, purchase, give us a contract offer that gives a contract offer to the player that works, and then gives a club an offer that we're happy with. So yeah, you never know.
Yeah, you just never know with these things. So and I think in the old days, it would be incredibly so unlikely that it basically never happened outside of Ray Lee in 2020. Most
Still
of us have,
mad about
There's
that.
a name.
I know.
Most of us have memory hold 2020 in general.
That nutmeg will live on forever.
Yeah.
Mercy.
In his own
In its own 18-yard box.
So, but like that's not something we typically think of that could happen.
Sure.
But like that is very much a thing that happens now, right? We mentioned Gabby Torres, a few minutes ago. Like Gabby Torres transferred to El Paso. Like he was
just
on
now.
Phoenix's roster. He transferred to El Paso just now. So like a player might leave. We're not privy to. We're not privy inside the locker room to those types of things. Chris is obviously going to do what he thinks is best for the team, working within the budget that we have,
And Sebastian.
And Sebastian, a technical director. So we'll see where the rest of this goes. Players arrived in town over the weekend.
Many of them did.
Yeah, many of them, not all, but many of them arrived in town over the weekend. So they had preseason meetings, medical testing, stuff like that. And I think the first day of training is probably, I would assume, maybe Monday.
I don't know. That sounds right.
So, yeah.
Back to our 3-man defense idea earlier. I think the 5th center back essentially on the roster, once we sign 2 more, is Jude. We saw Jude deputize a little bit in a red card game. We saw him deputize a little bit at center back and I don't think he's any of your top 4 center backs, but I think break glass in case of emergency, or like you need, you want to play a 3-man and you're down to 3 center backs, and for whatever reason the 3rd center back isn't ready to like start for whatever. I think it might be Jude, just because he's big, he's defensive, he's played a little bit of center back, he's a defensive midfielder by trade. Like those are similar positions. I think and he keeps you from having to sign a 5th center back potentially. You might need a 4th. You need a 4th center, not might. You need a 4th center back. You may not need a 5th if you have Jude. Or if the other thing is like they might sign. I love how the dog hit the table, who then scared himself, who scared the other dog, and here we are.
Toby, come here, buddy.
Puppies. But anyway, I don't know. I've been thinking about because now we have 3 holding midfielders essentially, and I realize Steve-O's not a true holding midfielder. He's a bit of an 8 as well.
Well, I think that
Nick
goes,
is a bit
that goes for Nick as well.
Remind me, did Tate play at all at a 3 his last go around here?
Not as a no.
As a wing back only.
We never
He played as a wing back,
As a wing back.
a little bit.
For Fuller.
For
not
Fuller, he did, yeah.
Not
That's
for
what
Rod.
Yeah.
Not for Rod.
Just as a wingback.
He played as a 6, as a right back,
And as a right wing
and
back.
as a wing back for
okay.
Fuller.
Yeah.
And then for Rod, he played tiny bit at the 8, and
Yeah.
Very, very briefly at first.
and then right back.
Yeah.
Well, we had a lot of 8s that year, so it made sense that he went to right back. And I think he'll play principally right back for
Yeah.
us.
Well, I think that's where he's the best.
That's where he played for Lexington a bit as well,
Yeah.
or not a bit, most of the time. I know he played a little bit of winger as well for Lexington, but
Yeah. But if you get yourself into a situation where, you want his kind of deep lying distribution from midfield and you're playing a back 3, and you want Minjay at wing back,
it's a good point.
You could slide Tate inside and let him play alongside somebody, and it's
a great point. I think so. In Italian they call that braccetto. It's like the right little arm, tiny arm.
I would love some. Yeah,
I thought
thank
that was
you.
a bread with cheese on it.
Yeah.
And that sounds great too. And yeah, I could see him doing a lot. That's very common too in Italian football, for you take a right back that's defensively has ability, like Danilo for Juve, or Mattia De Sciglio, was a right back forever.
I can think of an English club that does this quite a bit. I'm not going to mention any names.
It's weird that you talk about Tottenham like that, but yeah, no, Arsenal.
Mr. Benjamin White does that a lot.
It's a very good point. It's a center back that plays right back.
Yeah,
but it makes you get into a 3-man. It makes you into a 3-man.
Can he
essentially
play Premier League games from a hospital bed?
Jesus, Matthew.
I don't know. We may have to try. We'll have to see.
Very rude, Matthew. Very, very rude.
I would expect nothing less.
So the other thing I've been thinking about these last few signings, as we've re-signed a bit of our winger core now that we had last season. We've signed a player at right back, so right back's full. We've signed another midfielder, so midfield may be completely done. So we have these few extra spots, and I think one of the things that we've done in theory now is give ourselves the ability that if we get guys that are in USL Championship camps, especially if they're in an MLS camp and they get cut, guys that don't make an MLS Next Pro roster that we're trying to make an MLS roster, we have a real, or if they're whether they're coming out of college or wherever they're coming out of, we've got a real chance to hopefully sign some interesting difference makers rather, that if we don't get them, we're not oh my God, we don't have a starter. We have the players that can start. But we also have a really nice, floor and base to build from.
You never really want to completely close off your options in the lower divisions, because there are going to be players that come available. Whether they fall all the way to us, sometimes that doesn't always happen. But what they can do is push some other players down.
I'm just excited to see them. I don't know enough about the new guys yet. I'm just really excited to see them on the field.
And you can see them on the field on January 25th.
Nice segue.
In a match
because we've got a coach who is. This is his first head gig, right? And so, and we've got a lot. We're always going to have significant amounts of turnover, but we've got some a lot of new players, some returning. I think it's just going to be. I think that maybe hopefully. Well, this is not hopefully. I think we might see the inverse of what we saw last year. We may start slow and hopefully pick up. Because I'm waiting. I'm anxious to see what these guys are doing on the field.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I'm. The other thing is, last year we didn't have our roster done. We have several internationals, but Richard Dixon found out and decided, medically to retire during the preseason.
That is true. Yeah,
and so
we've got players earlier than we did.
Yeah,
last year.
we signed. Jude didn't get here until.
Jude didn't arrive until his first game was away to Huntsville, I think. I think we threw him straight in.
And then Mehdi was just arriving right before the season started. Yeah. He could only play limited sub minutes at the beginning. He subbed in the very first game. He was sub minutes only for the first 3 games, I think.
First 2 games, he was sub minutes. He started against FC Cincinnati.
But he could, at that point, he could only go 65, 70 minutes, whatever it was.
Yeah.
So the other thing is I hope, and we'll see what happens, but it seems like we might have more of our team together.
Yeah, that's fair.
Earlier.
Yeah, I forgot that. I forgot about that. That we were starting the season.
We had our
the start of the season felt like preseason.
And we had our NISA guys and like a lot of our guys carry over. So we had a lot of carryover. So we had like a reasonably good performance early in a lot of ways, but we didn't have several starters.
Yeah.
Like, and I'm we'll see, but I'm hoping we have some of our starters a little earlier.
Yeah, for sure.
And it's a longer. I feel like this preseason's longer.
Yeah, every time that we've had it, well, I guess this is the second time, but both times we've had Atlanta.
Every time we've had them 3 times.
Both times we've had Atlanta in the pro era. That elongates our preseason a little bit.
Thanks, Atlanta.
Yeah, so that's just part of it.
Well, I'm excited. It's starting to get real. 2.5 weeks away. So no, 3 weeks away. 2.5 weeks away.
If I can interject here for a second, because I want to make sure we talk about this before we get out of here. Buy your season ticket and do it before January 15th, because that is the cutoff day for your season ticket to be eligible for an Apple MLS season pass subscription.
Yeah, do that. You
Get
do
it
not
done.
want.
It is like $100 value right there on top of essentially $7.50 per match at the cheapest layer of a season ticket. It's a great deal. You'll find yourself watching CFC on the road.
Yes.
You'll find yourself watching random Next Pro.
No, I won't.
No.
You'll find yourself watching all kinds of things.
These are things that Matthew says.
You will find yourself
Yes.
watching.
I watch highlights from other MLS Next Pro teams on YouTube because I want to know who we're playing. But that's it.
Okay. Normies will find themselves watching other matches randomly.
I don't think you know what that means, first of all, and second of all, you're not a normie. But also,
You use that word. I don't think you know.
Yeah, bingo. I do think though, if you do like MLS, which I don't, but if you do like MLS, like it's an unbelievable value because you're getting the whole MLS season pass. What? So like if you like MLS, like doubly get it.
MLS
But sign up-
You can
also,
watch Messi's team play.
MLS also
Exactly.
changed their TV.
You can watch them lose.
Their TV windows to allow for there's like 5 or 6 windows a weekend now, whereas there was like kind of 2 before that. So there's a lot more opportunity to watch random games if that's something you're interested in.
I just want one thing from MLS Next Pro Online.
Full replays.
Yes.
Me too.
Yeah.
For the love
Yeah, if they
of
just
Don Garber, we need full replay.
and they should be on Apple TV. We should have full replays. Hopefully they'll get there. Anything left?
Last thing, open tryouts are not tomorrow. I assume you're going to be listening to this on Friday at the earliest. Open tryouts are not tomorrow. They were tomorrow. They have been postponed due to the snowpocalypse that you might be experiencing while listening.
Or
to
it
this
might not
podcast.
be happening, as is a very Chattanooga thing to do.
Yeah.
It's
But
not gonna
the only meteorologist I trust is Jonathan Hunter, and
Bingo.
he seems pretty convinced that the models say something interesting is going to happen. So, with that being said, if you're listening to this on Friday, it's probably a little late to go, prepare, but
There's no bread. There's no milk.
But how are we going to make milk and bread sandwiches?
There's no bread. There's
take
no milk.
take
Milk
care,
sandwiches.
take care of yourselves and
Yes.
others that you can, and stay safe.
And if it's slick
Tryouts
outside, don't leave your house.
Tryouts will be rescheduled. Open tryouts will be rescheduled. We don't know as of recording. We don't know when. But
Yeah, they haven't released anything, have they?
a little birdie in the Chattahooligan Slack has said that they will go to an open weekend in February that doesn't have a preseason game.
I really hope another player makes it. 2 years in a row in the pro era, we've had a player make it out of open tryouts.
Yeah,
I hope it happens again.
be awesome.
It would make me happy. All right, listeners, viewers, thank you for viewing. Thank you for listening. We love you guys. Peace.